Night outcry after internal emails at the Markham Library are made public.
That's basically saying my existence doesn't matter and it needs to be silenced.
Amid the violence in the Middle East, an email surfaces asking for Islamic Heritage Month displays be temporarily dismantled. The head of the library is now apologizing, but insists the email is inaccurate.
It's a reflection of the fact that we made a mistake. I'm acknowledging that mistake.
Plus, the Ford government moves to lock in the boundaries of the Greenbelt. Will it be enough to quell outrage sparked by the land swap scandal that the RCMP is now investigating?
It was a bit messy. It's on behalf of the city. Sorry about that.
And the mayor says she knows when apologies don't cut it. What Olivia Chow is now promising to make sure next year's Cafe TO goes down smooth. Good evening, I'm Chris Glover. We're beginning tonight in York Region, where internal communication from the Markham Public Library is causing some people heartache. An email directs staff to take down displays for Islamic Heritage Month, coming amid the ongoing violence in the Middle East. In a statement to CBC Toronto tonight, the head of the library acknowledges the email, but says it is inaccurate. Still, the story has some in the Muslim diaspora fearing for their safety. Dale Manukduk has that story.
This email from a Markham Public Library staff member dated October 11th has been making the rounds online. Regarding Islamic Heritage Month and the situation in the Middle East, it reads in part, if you currently have any merchandising around this topic, please take it down for now. If you haven't put it up yet, please do not. 2 hours later, an email from a member of the executive team was sent out to clarify. It says in part, we've asked that the displays be temporarily dismantled so we can regroup and take a considered approach to how we can support the community in this moment.
That's basically saying my existence doesn't matter and it needs to be silenced.
Aisha Kaja takes her 2 young children to the Markham Library often and was excited to show their community represented in a public space, something that didn't happen when she was a child.
To have that now for my kids, like, yeah, obviously they're young boys, so they don't see themselves represented, but they see mom, right? They see someone in a headscarf, and so they know, okay, this is Muslim.
In a statement to CBC Toronto, the library CEO acknowledges the email, going on to say the email is inaccurate. Markham Public Library regrets this occurred, and we apologize for any confusion or hurt this has caused the community. MPL confirms that the Islamic Heritage Month displays are present in all libraries and will remain on display for the remainder of October.
I still actually can't get over how ignorant and bigoted my library organization is. I'm ashamed.
CBC Toronto agreed to withhold the identity of this staff member for fear of being reprimanded.
For all the staff that I've spoken to, we collectively thought that there was no decision to be made, that the Heritage Month displays had already been up from the beginning of October. It predated any conflicts anywhere. And to sort of conflate the two, the religion with the conflict in the Middle East, was so offensive.
It comes amid an online campaign encouraging Muslim parents to keep their kids home from school after Wadia Al-Fayoume, a 6-year-old Palestinian boy, was stabbed to death in a town near Chicago. Police say he was targeted for being Muslim. Maura Khalid was 10 years old when the 9/11 attacks happened and experienced firsthand the rise in Islamophobia. She kept her kids home from their York Region District school today.
I was subjected to bullying, discrimination, racism within the institutional system because of my Muslim identity. And that has traumatized me. I don't want my children to go through what I went through. And till today, I remember everything so vividly.
Khalid asked the board for a plan to support her kids and was referred to the generic policies. She intends to keep her kids home for another day until a plan is clearly outlined. Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Markham.
Now to Windsor and the latest on a murder trial. The man who drove into a Muslim family in London 2 years ago, killing 4 people, says he drove to Toronto a day before the crash. Nathaniel Veltman says he was scoping it out as a location for a future attack because he knew many Muslims live here. Veltman taking the stand today for the 3rd time during his trial in Windsor. He said he felt like he was in a bizarre dream state after taking psychedelic mushrooms. Veltman says he drove to Toronto wearing body armor and carrying a bag of weapons in his pickup truck. He said he hadn't planned to carry out an attack that night, but the jury heard when Veltman spotted a group of Muslims in Toronto, he felt the urge to step on the gas and run them over. Veltman testified he got scared and drove back home immediately. The next night in London, he ran over 3 generations of the Afzal family killing 4 and seriously injuring a young boy. He has pleaded not guilty to terrorism-motivated first-degree murder and attempted murder charges. To Midtown Toronto now, where an elderly woman was killed after she was struck by a dump truck in the area of Davisville and Mount Pleasant.
It appeared that she was walking properly along with the signals. So, and it was approximately 10:30 this morning that it occurred. So the individual was crossing from the west side of Mount Pleasant to the east on the south side. So it sounds from the initial point of the investigation that she had the green light and the indication for her to walk properly.
Police believe the truck was making a right turn at the time, and the driver remained at the scene. Investigators are trying to confirm the woman's identity and notify her family. In Toronto's West End, a woman is dead and a man is in custody after a stabbing last night.
Police received a call for a person with a knife at 1986 Davenport Road. Police arrived on scene and found a male with a knife, arrested him. As a result of that, a female was located inside a home at a separate location with injuries to her body.
Officers tried to revive the woman, but she was pronounced dead. Police did not provide any further information about the victim or if the suspect knew her. The homicide unit has taken over the investigation, and police are, of course, asking anybody with information or surveillance footage to contact them right away. Turning now to some highly anticipated legislation tabled today at Queen's Park. The Ford government introducing a bill locking in the boundaries of the Greenbelt after backtracking on its plan to remove some protected lands to build housing. It follows months of outcry, 2 damning investigations by government watchdogs, and of course, an RCMP investigation that is ongoing. Lorenda Redekop has the story.
Speaker, I move that leave be given to introduce a bill entitled An Act to Amend the Greenbelt Act 2005 and certain other acts.
It's a bill with the usual clunky language of the legislature. What it would do is once again protect the 15 parcels of land the government took out of the Greenbelt as the PCs try to move on from what's turned into a political disaster. 2 ministers and 2 party staffers lost their jobs.
It's a reflection of the fact that we made a mistake. I'm acknowledging that mistake. It was a process that could not be supported.
The changes introduced today mean it would require any future Greenbelt changes to be passed through a vote in the legislature, not just through regulation, like the Ford government did last year, though the government and its majority could still vote through any changes. Initially, the opposition parties don't seem to have a problem with the bill.
It looks like the Greenbelt is going to be back to where it was. And I don't think this government's ever going to touch it again. Our bigger problem is we've got a government that believes that they can give wealthy, well-connected insiders the inside track over the rest of us. And that's the thing we got to get to. That's the thing we got to get to the bottom of.
He points to other deals, such as Highway 413 and Ontario Place. It says the RCMP is investigating the government over its Greenbelt land swap.
To this date, they have not contacted us. They've not asked for anything. They've not been in contact with us at all. If they do, we will stand ready to assist in any way.
But it's something opposition parties will likely keep bringing up, as happened today.
It's really something here, I got to tell you, to hear these members applaud themselves when they're under RCMP criminal investigation. I just can't get over it. I can't get over it. It's unbelievable.
With this new bill, the public is able to comment, something that did not happen with the last Greenbelt changes. People have until the end of November to give feedback. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
While that debate went down inside the legislature, outside the building, protesters were pouncing on what they called the momentum of the Greenbelt scandal, shouting down the Ford government's redevelopment plans for Ontario Place. As a backdrop to that demonstration, the opposition presented new evidence that it says shows a rigged process with Ontario Place. Ali Chiasson has that part of our political coverage tonight.
People opposed to the Ontario Place spa have gathered on the lawn of Queen's Park to make their voices heard.
Trees, yes. Mega spa, no. Trees, yes.
Among them, environmentalists and citizens who want to keep the land public. Nonprofit political advocacy group Progress Toronto is here too.
We are canvassing right now in collaboration with Ontario Place for All to knock on doors in conservative wards, just conservative ridings. And one of the things they keep telling us is, I vote conservative, but I'm really upset about this. I don't like my government selling away public land, cutting down trees to build a private mega spa. And one of the things that they reference is the Greenbelt.
They're rallying on the momentum of the Greenbelt scandal, which saw the government reverse course on that issue. Why not take a look at Ontario Place?
Greenbelt 2.0.
We have some big news this morning here in the province of Ontario.
The NDP is also trying to capitalize on that momentum, announcing supposed findings of
mounting evidence of a rigged process for the Ontario Place redevelopment.
The NDP leader is referring to documents they obtained through a Freedom of Information request, a presentation by Infrastructure Toronto, an arm's-length entity of the government.
These documents include a parking study from Infrastructure Ontario from January 2021 that mentions Therma and its $500 million parking garage nearly 2 years before the public even knew about it.
They led the procurement.
Infrastructure Minister Kinga Surma says there was nothing backroom about the process. And to the critics?
Well, I think parking is really important on the site, don't you? Wonderland, the zoo, Exhibition Place all provide parking. Why do they do that? Because people need access to the site and it's customer convenience.
The most organized among the critics is Ontario Place for All, who are not letting this go.
They arranged a special deal for Therme to get this parking lot, which they offered to no other bidder. It's totally not fair. It's totally a terrible use of taxpayer money, and they didn't even do it the right way.
I also ran into the wife of late Ontario Place architect Michael Huff and had to ask.
What would he say about the site and where we're at now?
He would say, please don't cut those trees down. I planted them with a purpose to make a forest.
A lot of those trees would have to come down to make room for said parking garage. Now, obviously, the opposition wants Ontario Place to be Greenbelt 2.0 and see the provincial government completely reverse course on the issue. But when you see something like this construction fence go up today, that is looking more and more unlikely. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
All right, popping outside, and it is 10 degrees as we look live at the skyline right now. Watch out for some patchy fog that could develop in the next hour or so. Colette Kennedy is here with the first look at the forecast. Hey, Colette, a mostly overcast day leading into clearly an overcast night.
Yeah, that's right, Chris. It was kind of a gray day, and obviously through midday, too. Boy, those winds were gusty. Some of those gusts around 50 kilometers an hour, so it had a cool feel to it as well. Not all the numbers were down, though. I mean, Kingston, 15 for a daytime high, 14 for the nation's capital, but you were stuck in that single digit there, Barry. Couldn't quite make it to 10 degrees. And of course, speaking of stuck, very stubborn cloud deck that we've been dealing with through the day. And even tomorrow, there will be areas, and you can see where it's still going to be somewhat dense, and also some of this mixing with fog as we get some patchy fog or areas of fog developing overnight tonight. So I would expect we'll see some sunny breaks developing into the afternoon, but close to that shoreline into the Golden Horseshoe, we'll still have some cloud cover. You'll do a little bit better there as the day wears on back towards southwestern Ontario. So you do have that to look forward to. And in terms of the temperature, 7 overnight tonight for Toronto. 14 will be the daytime high tomorrow. But then, Chris, we are going to see a bit more of a warm-up coming our way, and I'll fill you in on those details coming up.
All right, looking forward to that. Thank you, Colette. So a fall warm-up is on the horizon, but today the city of Toronto was focused on winter, committed to improving its upcoming snow clearing operations. Last year was the first of a $1.5 billion 10-year contract that'll see 2 companies handle the majority of the work. Auditor reports from this summer show Toronto's snow clearing operation was $26 million over budget last year.
Not the best value of taxpayers' dollars. And I'm certainly going to continue to stay on top of this because I want it done properly.
Councillor Paul Ainsley says he also heard about sidewalk plows destroying the edges of residents' lawns. The city issued penalties for the contractor's performance in February to the tune of $17.4 million for leaving a depot late and not correcting problems within 2 hours of being notified. Today, officials said they're ready to apply the same penalties from the start of the winter season if necessary. Welcome back. There was an apology today from the mayor over what she called this year's messy rollout of Cafe TO. Olivia Chow promises next year's patio program will be better, and she has set specific targets for the city. Greg Ross has that story.
This weekend, many restaurants put their patio tables and chairs back into storage, with Cafe TO officially wrapping up for another year. Today, Mayor Chow admitted the program had some issues this year.
I own everyone that have applied the Cafe TO program an apology. It was a bit messy. It's on behalf of the city. Sorry about that.
The program transitioned from a pilot project to a permanent installation this year. Restaurant and bar owners were required to get permits to take part, but the approval process was slow.
They were still dropping the concrete embankments, well into the summer.
David Adji owns Booth by Adji on Dundas Street West. He applied for a Cafe TO permit this year, but decided against it because it took too long to get approval from the city. Many of the 335 restaurants and bars that did get permits missed both the May 24 and July 1st holiday weekends because of delays.
You saw people still building all throughout July. Some patios opened up the first week of August. Talk about a small window to actually capture your business.
Today, the mayor promised that won't be the case next year.
For those of you that already have a Cafe TO program and have everything set up, we're going to give you an approval. Not next year. By end of November. November 30th, you will know that you have the approval for next year.
The city says it's also going to be easier for restaurant owners who weren't a part of the Cafe TO program this year but want to get a permit to open a patio in 2024.
For a new restaurant joining the Cafe TO program in 2024, we're going to open up the application mid-January. So we're not going to wait.
The mayor says they hope to have the majority of applications approved by mid-April. Adji says if that's the case, he'll consider giving Cafe TO another shot.
But then you've got to have that patio built and ready to go for that first warm weekend in May, not July.
Chow says the plan is to have city staff setting up safety barriers no later than May 1st.
We're going to make sure patio are ready and open at the latest for the Victoria Day weekend.
According to a city-funded study, the program generated more than $200 million in economic benefits in 2022. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
To sports now, and the Leafs going into tonight's game against Chicago on a high note. They've won the first 2 games of the season, and at puck drop, all eyes were on 2 players in particular. One of them isn't even a Leaf.
Connor Bedard looks to be the 5th #1 pick to record points in 4 straight games. Austin Matthews looking to become the first ever with 3 consecutive hat tricks.
It was rookie Connor Bedard's first time playing against the Buds. The 18-year-old was the first overall pick in the 2023 NHL draft. He was held pointless tonight. So was Austin Matthews. No 3-game hat trick streak for him. And Toronto's winning streak, that was snapped as well. Chicago wins 4-1. With the long-range forecast and that warm-up you were promising earlier.
Yes, I did mention that we would see the temperatures, especially after a kind of cooler day today, beginning to climb. But let's get you through all 3 of your headlines here. The clouds, yes, stubborn, but they will be breaking up somewhat tomorrow, and so we'll see some improvement. Areas with some of that fog, that will burn off tomorrow morning. It might take a bit of time, though, because there's not as much sun coming through. But yes, there it is. The overall trend in our temperatures is that they will be on the rise, and we'll see some numbers 4 to 5 degrees above daytime highs, like a normal daytime high, as we get to Wednesday, Thursday, Friday through there. So with sunshine too, it'll be easier to count on it in more widely across southern and eastern Ontario when we get to Wednesday. It's going to take some time, and there are going to be areas that will be more stubborn than others as we move forward in time. I think you'll start to see some sunny breaks or becoming at least a mix of sun and cloud. Windsor towards Leamington, Chatham, Kent. For the GTA, it's likely going to take a little bit more time, but this model is really putting a lot of cloud cover in. I do think we'll see some improvement there into the afternoon. And then, of course, as I move this forward in time, we do get more clearing to take us into Wednesday, but we also have another player that's going to be moving in towards the end of the week, and that will bring with it, with some of that warmth, a chance for some showers too. But those winds, after they were so gusty today, they're making a nice change, a nice improvement as they ease up as we go through the day on Tuesday. Some cool overnight temperatures. Barrie, I mean, you really stand out there, but even Windsor down to 4 degrees. Where the clouds are a little thicker, it kind of helps keep in some heat so the temperature is not as cool. 14 for that high tomorrow. The more sun that we get coming through in those afternoon hours, we could see that pop up to 15, but then Wednesday, there we go, 16, 17, yes, a chance of showers on Thursday. This is likely later in the day. Much of the day should be dry, and it's a pretty slim chance, even those showers on Friday. So I think you'll still be able to enjoy some of that into the weekend. And guess what happens, Chris? The temperatures start to drop off again.
All right. Thanks, Colette. Have a great night. Finally, tonight, we're taking you to TMU's campus, where some students got a mental health reboot in the coldest of ways.
Yeah, you're good, good. You're doing excellent. Now, that back of the tub, we want to lean on the back of that tub, okay? Yeah, so let's drop. Yeah, absolutely.
Yikes. Okay, so this polar plunge taking place on the rooftop of the university's urban farm. Students submerged themselves in bathtubs full of ice and cold water for up to 2 minutes. And the plunge is part of a new approach at TMU where mental health and wellness are incorporated right into the curriculum. Professors are hoping the icy dip will help teach students self-awareness, self-control, and stress management. And students will also get a chance to participate in a similar plunge tomorrow. No way. All right, that is our show for you tonight. Thanks for watching. I'll see you back here tomorrow night at 11. We'll see you then.